WAOC is in the southern states this week. Well, Georgia actually. Marty here with warehouse and operations as a career. I had the opportunity to visit with a couple of facilities over here. One to speak to safety. Nothing really going on, just a short follow-up visit. It's always nice to talk safety to such a group of young men and women. Maybe get some questions answered, and at the very least bring that culture of safety to the forefront of everyone's mind. My other stop was to talk about different training programs. 2 weeks ago, we were over at the Distribution Training Center, and I shared a little bit on what all they had going on. And since we've been talking about a lot of the positions or career positions lately, I thought I'd share a little from this week's trip to the group. You know, some of the high points about this kind of a trip is getting to spend so much time in the warehouse with all the employees. I even had the chance to run some pallets around on the building for the lift drivers. I don't know how much I actually accomplished, but I had a good time. It was so encouraging to hear from almost everyone that I spoke with that safety was honestly a part of their workday. Everyone I spoke with at both facilities talked about their daily startup meetings and how much they enjoyed how their supervisors would speak about something that had, either happened recently or earlier in the week. To me, that shows a very engaged and strong supervisor. He or she is not only taking care of their company, but their employees as well. It makes us as employees feel good, doesn't it? Being a part of the program just makes us all that much safer. Since I'm typically walking the buildings, kind of shaking hands with employees and meeting with frontline leads and supervisors, I'm almost always asked something like, "Is something wrong?" Or maybe, "What are you looking for?" Sometimes it's along the lines of, "Why are you watching us?" Some third-party auditors or company safety team members or trainers have commented to me before that their employees are suspicious or conspiracy seekers. Myself as an employee, I just see these types of questions for what they really are. Human nature wants to know what is going on. Anything or anyone out of the ordinary in our workspace should invoke a question. And as you know here at WAOC, we view questions and communication as the employees' ticket for promotions and advancement. So today, I thought I'd share a few of the things anyone may be looking for. Your lead, supervisor, or safety director, maybe the trainer, maybe an auditor of some type. Even a tenured or new associate may notice. And I honestly hope any of the above are looking for these things and many more on a day-to-day basis. So when I visit a facility to do any kind of safety follow-up or just an initial visit, I always like to include a walkthrough with the person responsible for safety. Depending on the size of a location, that could be a VP or director of safety or a young man or woman performing a task on the floor. The important thing is that whoever is responsible for driving that culture of safety is getting the word out and not only observing the rules but enforcing them and holding us as employees accountable. One of the first things I look at is the building perimeter. I find that if the fence doesn't have a bunch of papers and shrink wrap, wrappers and leaves, really any kind of debris laying up against it from the wind blowing everything around, it usually tells me that this facility takes sanitation seriously. A clean facility can be a safe facility. Another thing I look at is signage. Is it visible from the road? Are all the lights on it working? Can it be noticed immediately? I've heard of so many fender benders happening out front of different facilities because at the last second, a car or tractor trailer just saw the sign and had to make an immediate maneuver to avoid missing the turn. Then out in the truck yard, I'm always going to look at those yellow or, red bollard posts. They're great for keeping a truck or tractor from rolling up into our railings or knocking down our light poles. But are they painted well? A bollard just looks so much more important or official if it's bright and clean looking. I think well-kept bollards and brightly striped parking lanes really kind of show pride. Employees and management that are proud of their buildings kind of project that culture of safety. Heading inside the building, I always ask about security. Are there separate employee entrances? Are there employee badges required? I always try and learn a little about those programs if they are present. Most companies will have a written procedure that they follow. My next observation may be the pedestrian walkways. Again, I love seeing a bright striped or outlined walkway, depending what that walkway is identifying. As a quick side note, did you know that OSHA helps us define the importance of walkways and floor markings? I found a short article at graphicproducts.com, more of an advertisement actually. And no, WAOC is not affiliated with them or any other suppliers really. I just pulled them up online, thought you may find it interesting. Anyway, they remind us that OSHA addresses floor marking specifically in its standard on materials handling and storage of the standard 29 CFR 1910.176. You should check out the standard at OSHA.gov. It'll give you recommended widths and suggestions for where we may need them. And it tells us how 29 CFR 1910.144 talks a little about establishing color coding for different things too. I found them both short and really interesting reads. Anyway, walkways are so important. We may have over-the-road drivers unloading at our facility for the first time, not being aware of our traffic patterns or what warehouse equipment we're using. They will help safely direct them to where they need to go. Even us as employees need a safe pathway to the break room, water fountain, and maybe even the time clocks. Walkways will help us as equipment operators too. We know to always be on the lookout for people and know our surroundings, but a clean, bright, and defined walkway sure can help out too. Next, and this one I sometimes stump an associate or young supervisor with. Okay, if our facility incorporates an overhead sprinkler system or an in-rack system, does everyone know where the main water shutoff valves are located, or maybe the sectional valves are located? Think about it really quick. If a forklift driver hits a sprinkler head in the rack, or we're taking a pallet down from the top rack and drag it across a water line, ever seen those lines start draining water right onto our freight and into our warehouse? I can tell you it's not a pretty sight, and for every second it takes to turn off the water flow, gallons upon gallons of water is running through those lines. If you're a lift operator, always know where those water lines are located. And if you're a supervisor, learn how to stop that water flow. I always made sure 3 or 4 of my team members knew how to find and shut off those valves. The next thing I may ask to see are the fire evacuation routes or those plans. Usually these will be posted somewhere that's easily accessible and available for everyone to see. It's not unheard of for an auditor to stop kind of at random and ask an employee if he or she knows where they are and where do they go in the event of an evacuation. If you're a supervisor, make sure all your associates know where that rally point is and that you have a roster on you with their phone numbers so you can let any first responders know that everyone's out and clear. Of course, I also want to see the eye wash stations and the emergency showers just to make sure they're working properly. Oh, and fire extinguishers. Are all your fire extinguishers properly placed throughout the facility? Depending on what type of facility I'm in, I may ask to see the flammable cabinets. It's best to have certain shop items locked in a fireproof cabinet. I'll usually check the first aid stations. Check the SDS books and ask if safety meetings are given on a schedule or at the daily startup meeting. Things like that. While walking around visiting, I'll check to make sure everyone's wearing their required PPEs and any safety equipment. And I always enjoy talking to their 29 CFR 1910.178 instructors. It's always nice to talk a little safety shop talk. There are probably 100 other things I notice while walking around, but for me the most important thing is talking with and visiting with all the associates. They so rarely get to talk about all their knowledge and share it with a stranger. Every walk is a positive thing. I honestly have never had a negative walkthrough. Always share your culture of safety with anyone walking your building, every chance that you get. As for training visits, safety is so defined. Either the safety culture is there, or you're following all the regulations and have everything documented, or you don't. If not, then you just have to get it documented and strengthen your facility's culture. Training, on the other hand, needs to be what works. Training is different for every position and really for every employee. We all learn a little differently. The word I always throw out to a new hire is just listen. Even if we've been doing something for 5 years, I assure you we'll learn something from even a new hire if we'll just listen to them. I see so many experienced warehousemen like order selectors, pallet runners, and sanitation crews. Really everyone. They just get to thinking they know everything there is to know about their jobs and just quit moving forward. I learn something new from everyone that I talk to, at every facility I visit, and every new hire that I speak with. The important thing about a training program is that you have one. Just like a job description, it needs to be printed on paper and be something someone can hold in their hands. If it's not outlined and documented, we're going to teach the job a little differently to each person that we speak with. As trainers, it's our jobs to keep it interesting, explain everything well, and make sure our employees understand what we're asking them to do. We have to answer questions. Drag questions out of them if we have to. I do a lot of things like saying, repeat that back to me now. Things like that. I've always found people learn better when they mix listening with talking. Do you always feel like you've given it your all when you've trained an individual? You get a little frustrated occasionally, right? Imagine how a new hire feels if they get frustrated. You're going to show up to work tomorrow because you know it's going to get better. They may not. And then you'll have to start the whole process over again, which will lead to you being much more frustrated, I bet. To summarize, welcome an auditor or anyone that wants to know more about your operations. I assure you they're only there to help. In my case, I'm just there to meet you. And for training, be accepting, listen, and follow the directions given. Even if you've done something differently in the past, follow the directions that you're receiving now. You're getting paid, and I'm certain the program being taught has been really thought through and developed for specific goals in mind. Speaking of goals real quick, how's yours coming along? I myself have one that I'm having to really hunker down next week on, but overall, I'm going to wrap up 2019 pretty much like I wanted to. Until next week, let's all go out on the floor and make a new friend. Talk shop with them. Share a safety thought. Listen and communicate.